say. Good looking bunch. Yeah. Have you been to the show before? Were you here last year? How many last year? Everybody. Wow. And now you're back.
Luigi.
Am I?
Puoi passare per la passerella?
Grazie.
And Luigi Cozzi! Okay, so you know the drill. I'll ask a few questions and then pass the word to you guys. So I will start with you, Caroline.
Okay.
What did you know, if anything, about Italian cinema before your first film with Mr. Cozzi?
Right. If I'm honest, I'd heard about Italian film, and I'd heard about the Giallo films, and I'd heard that they were wonderful, but if I'm totally honest, I hadn't really seen films in Italy until I got to work with this maestro man. So when we actually got to work together, and in Italy, which I'm sure many of you know is just a magical place, and to shoot with this man, this amazing, over-the-top, kind of camp, but wonderfully heartfelt film was just a joy for me. I loved it. So, yes, my first one with Luigi, I loved it.
And what did you think of the script for Star Crash when you received it? I mean, it was like something.
It was, I'd never done anything like it before, because I'd done, I'm trying to think, mostly Hammer, I've worked on Hammer, and I'd done the Bond film at that point. So it was something totally different, very left field for me. And I loved her, because I think she sounded like a cartoon. She's, everything about it. I like the script, I like the whole concept of the idea, and the thought of going to Italy and having spaghetti all the time. I was so excited. I really was. And then obviously meeting Luigi, who I believe was a big fan of Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah.
That you were, weren't you? Yeah, we all were. And I think that's kind of maybe how you maybe thought about me for Marianne.
I saw Harryhausen sing about Golden Voyage.
Yes.
And I thought you were perfect.
Oh, I love that.
And when the producer asked me who you see as a lead character, I said Caroline Monro. And he said, who
is she? I got that a lot.
And I said, she was Harryhausen, Golden Voyage, etc. And he said, well, nobody knows her.
Exactly.
And so they started looking for an actress in the USA. The casting was made, most of it was in LA. And I heard the names of American actors. They proposed Michael Welch.
Yeah, Michael Welch.
And I was hoping she didn't refuse. And she did. She did. Then I heard other names, and I always said, what I really, I would have loved Caroline for my picture. And we came very close to start shooting, let's say 10 days before. And no American actress was for the cast because they asked for too much money, I think. I don't know exactly, I guess, but. And the producer came back to me but said, you spoke to me long ago about an English actress you like. And I said, yes, Caroline Monro. And he said, okay, I'll look for her. And she came.
I did. I mean, how lucky was I? That was just, it was kismet. I think it was kind of meant to be. I thought.
Luigi, you, in a way, shaping, I mean, you've done lots of films, you made Gialli, you made horror, you made all sorts of films, but you've always chased science fiction throughout your career. That was the drive. How was it to finally make a fully-fledged science fiction film, and how did that come together, the Star Crash?
Well, it's a lifelong story because I started when I was 7 years old, watching Walt Disney 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and loved that picture. And since that moment, I started looking for other science fiction pictures. And so many of them all through my young years, and most of them were quite stupid. And I said, if I were ever to become a director, I couldn't do such a stupid movie. And so I was always willing to become a science fiction film director. And in that period, I was alone because in Italy science fiction was considered crap, very close to porn. They considered the comics absolutely non-educational. They were forbidden in school.
Yeah, comic books.
And science fiction was worse than the comics, really close to porn, I say. My parents opposed to it. They didn't want me to bring science fiction books home because you were reading stupid thing. So I started to hiding them in the school books under my bed.
Under the bed.
Under my bed. And I kept on wishing to become one day one science fiction director to do a more decent science fiction picture. And I started working in the science fiction literature because at school I had 8 or 9 in Italian language. I was very good at writing. And so I approached the magazine. I did the first Italian fan magazine ever I think in '62. And I was quite young. And 1 year later, I became assistant editor for one of the leading science fiction magazines because I wanted to know everything about science fiction. And where I lived in Milano, Milan, there in the center there were many tourists, and there was a newsstand which sold American science fiction magazine too. And I started buying them, not knowing English, but trying perhaps with a dictionary to understand what was written in them. And in the end, I started to write or read English very well, out of my passion. And I started to know many more things about science fiction literature, even more than what the editors of Italian science fiction magazine knew.
You knew more than they did.
Yeah, because they didn't care about buying the American magazine, which was the history of science fiction, while I wanted to know what the history was, how the writer became writers and other things like that. And so in the end, I started writing letters to the magazine, correcting the errors.
How old were you at this point? You were very young.
Yes, 15, 16, 15,
Wow,
16.
child prodigy.
When I was 16, I became assistant to the editor of one of the leading Italian science fiction magazines. And there I learned from 16 years to
You
8.
did with the, you had that wonderful Roberto. You did the DP.
Yes.
You did all that. I think it was wonderful. But what you created was the stars. It just was magical. And it was something for the family to see. It was okay for a family to see. And it was like for me, I remember first seeing it was like a movie and cartoon, but with people. With people. Does that, I mean, it's your
Quali erano i riferimenti per te? What were your references?
Well, I could not see Star Wars until later on, because we will release it much later. But in May, the producer said, I will produce a science fiction picture for you. If it's like the land which time forgot, and Star Wars. And my problem was, I knew that the book and the movie The Land That I Forgot, and I hated it. It was very stupid. But about Star Wars, I did not know it, but being a science fiction book collector, a couple of years before in Milano, I afforded a copy of the Valentine American book edition of Star Wars, the novelization. It was the first time that a novelization was published 2 years before the picture opened. It didn't sell a copy. Yeah,
So have they shot it? Have they shot it?
I didn't buy usually novelization because I didn't like them. In that case, I was curious to know what Star Wars was because I had seen the former picture by George Lucas, THX, and two, it was very hard to watch because it was very intellectual. I thought it was visually fascinating. And so I was wondering what he could have done with a title like Star Wars. And the book, the Valentine book, had a cover by Ralph McQuarrie, which was a fantastic painter, and the cover fascinated me. So I couldn't resist the cover, even if I edited the novelization. And I didn't buy it, but didn't read it, just put it in my collection, my shelf. When later on, I realized I had to know what Star Wars was, to do what the producer wanted. I remember I edited the novelization. So I just ran to it in half an hour because it's very fast writing. And I didn't realize, I didn't recognize where George Lucas had taken his inspirations. Because were in the literature of the 40s, science fiction, science fantasy of the 40s and the early 50s. And so I said, okay, I write something like the original scenes of Star Wars, which were in that literature. So I did write it in the pulp style. The pulp style is there are many scenes. Every scene must start with a situation, a certain situation. Midway through the scene, that situation is to be reversed, given a surprise. At the end of the scene, that situation must be reversed again. So free change the situation in one scene, alter the pictures. And that's why what I did, getting inspiration from Barbarella comics, from Flash Gordon, and mostly from American writer Lee Brackett, who was a fantastic screenwriter, and not casually, George Lucas hired her to write The Empire Strikes Back. After I used her schemes, her construction of the picture, of the story for my books, standard books. So that's where
It's an interesting process, isn't
Very
it?
interesting.
That's super complicated. Because you started so young, and that, you knew that was your passion.
Yes.
You knew what you did.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the Hof. David Hasselhoff.
I mean, she can
Yes.
get that story, I guess.
And you can do it.
I can tell how I hired him, but You work it.
I did work with him. I actually really liked him. You could not like him because he was so excited because before I think he'd just done a lot of television, the soap operas in America, in LA. And so it was his first film. I remember him coming up to me, he's like a Labrador puppy. You know, he was so excited. He said, I'm so excited to be here working on a European film and Italian director and here at Cinecittà. So he was more than excited to do it. And he really took his work seriously, didn't he? Really prepared, and he looked so beautiful in the film. Didn't he look pretty? He really did. His hair, his makeup, perfect. He looked gorgeous. And he was very professional. I enjoyed working with him. I really did. He was good fun. He sang a lot. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He sang a lot. But it was lovely because it was around his set and it was just, and in the dressing room so I could hear him sing. I think he did a really good job. I mean, I do, and he looked great in the costumes and he could really, do the acting, but he could also handle himself, couldn't he? So, yeah, I enjoyed it.
You actually were close to directing the game for La Casa Quattro, a witchery, or witch story. Witchery, witchcraft.
Yeah, I know he signed the deal to do that movie because he knew I was going to direct it. But then I went after that deal.
You know the film? With
Another one.
Yeah. Fabrizio Laurenti, Linda Left.
Yes, because I thought the story was interesting, but it needed to be slightly changed to suit my capacities. And the producer said, okay, you can do it.
Joe D'Amato.
But later on he said, okay, we go together to the distributor who is also the real producer, the guy who puts the money. And you tell what we want to change. And so we went there with him. And he said, no, absolutely no changes. You see, I was working out of the script with the writer, and he showed me a big paper, we did the component by the computer, and it said the computer, this is good, this is good. And he refused to make changes, and so when we went away, I said, I'm going.
Okay, just 1 second tech break.
Do you remember they wanted to do the Star Riders? Do you remember when we went to Cannes?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? That was bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was possibly to be a
No, not bizarre, but in 79.
Yes,
79, and at the Carlisle film market, Gary Cannon, Monro, the other one, made the deal with her husband.
Yeah.
Their husband to do a sequel, kind of sequel of Star Attraction, titled Star Riders, which had been written by me.
It was your baby, that's the thing.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
It was another project by me, very different but similar, somewhat similar. And they called me to come to sign the deal.
Yeah.
And they gave me the script. And I read it. And they changed my script. They said change my Star Rider script in Star Crash 2 with Stella Star, which was not what I read. And so I said, no, I'm not going to sign. If you want Star Riders, it must be my version, Star Riders, original version. The point is that Gordon and Grove had accepted the Star Riders proposal by my husband because they were just started to release their pictures in the USA with Cannon. they're just taking over, come on. And their first movies were in the disaster at the box office. And they had the same regional state distributor for all the states. And those distributors at that moment were releasing for Roger Corman Star Crash. So they came, no, you must give us a product exactly like Star Crash. Star Crash, do another Star Crash. And so got very close, so the Star Riders could be their Star Crash.
Yes, yes.
But they had proposed a different version. And I refused to do that. So they wanted me, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, they made a contract for me for Star Riders, but when I refused to do that script, they kept the contract for. And in the end, they turned it into Hercules.
Yes, they did, didn't they? Yeah, which you did.
Yeah, because they had to pay me anyway.
Okay. It's your turn. Who has questions? Go for it.
Could you tell us a little bit about Godzilla, that you had a hand in the original, I think it was. You coloured it, done a colour version of it, kind of thing. How did that come about?
It's a long story. The most picture might be a long story behind it, because I try only to do what I like and not commercialize myself. Godzilla was born out in that period. I was doing science fiction reviews, theatrical reviews of all the science fiction movies. I was programming them. They were selling a lot of tickets. They were doing very well at the box office. And so I started buying reissues, rights for science fiction movies from the 50s. And one of the pictures which was missing was the first Godzilla from Toyo. In Italy, in the rest of the world, that first version, the Godzilla, was the American one. And I asked her to buy the original Japanese version for my review, science fiction review. They asked me for $7,000, which was a high price for a reissue. But I wanted badly to do that picture because one of my idol when I was a kid. And they told me no, the Japanese version cannot be sold anywhere except Japan, because they made a deal with the American who made the American version of Godzilla, so they could sell abroad only the American Godzilla with the random bug, which was quite different from the original. And so I said, okay, I buy the original, the American version, and then decided, because Dino De Laurentiis had announced that he was going to do King Kong, so maybe Godzilla, the original, may get some attention from the theaters, to get back the money. And I proposed that to my small distributors in Italy, and they said, oh yes, the original Cozzilla, very good, go ahead with it. And so I bought it and showed them at the end the first Italian reprint of the old Godzilla. And they said, after the projection, they said, but it's a black and white picture. And I said, but it's always been a black and white picture. I thought you knew that. I have forgotten about that. And they say, so what? So what? We cannot release it. The theaters don't accept the black and white picture anymore, except the big American director like Woody Allen or Scorsese, not the Japanese movie, monster movie. And so I was left with my Godzilla issue without the market. And one of those that distributor proposed me to print the original black and white negative on a color film, which give a result which is orange all over the screen. They were releasing all Agatha Christie movies, Miss Marple, in Italy, in Florence. But those were in black and white, and when you enter the theater, you saw all the picture orange, which I hated. I said, no, I cannot do this thing to Godzilla. So in the same period, I met a young guy who was doing special effects in the Harryhausen way, Emmanuel Carlisle from Toyo. And I made him work some special effects test to show producer for the kind of picture, science fiction picture I dreamed to do. And I had seen how he work with the same machinery that Harryhausen used. And so I realized that we could, with stop motion, color parts of the picture in different colors. And he was very fast guy, so I said, I give you 100 meters of Godzilla black and white, color it, and show me what comes out of it. He did this test, and I said, well, it's possible, it's possible. And so we did colorize Godzilla, but I also put more shots in it, because it was 1 hour, 80 minutes long. And the Italian first run theater didn't accept anymore 80 minutes movies. So I added about 20 minutes of World War II explosions, destruction, deaths, war battles with space, with ships, battleship exploding, and things like that, to do other effects. So it came to 1 hour and 40. And then I added sound effects, because the original Godzilla had sound effect made in the early 50s, when the gun shot, you hear poof, poof. It was kind of sense around, so I did 4 magnetic tracks for the picture with a lot of sound, a lot of explosion. And I did succeed to make it work. It was in first run picture for 2 weeks in several cities, and so I came back in the morning and did a kind of psychedelic Godzilla in colors, which I didn't thought it would be very funny news. But in any case, it has been the first colorized movie ever in the world, because I did not much time before, in '76, before the computer colorization.
Okay, unfortunately that's all the time we have. Just the last question. Go for it.
Yeah, Caroline, what are your memories of Captain Kronos?
Captain Cronus. Loved it. Loved working with Brian. I think he's a genius. When you think of all the television stuff he's done, he was extraordinary. It's his first time directing, and I find him wonderful as a director. Very kind of inspirational and very helpful. I find him very helpful. All shot outside, so it's very naturalistically shot. And I just thought he was genius because he just put in clever little touches. I think the film has grown legs. I think it's a really, I'm very proud of that, as I am of Stelcrash. I'm very proud of those two. I think they're brilliant. I think they're lovely. Working with him, I'm trying to release it to other people. Yeah, I love working on that film. It's come out in about 7 now.
It has,
And
yeah.
yes,
Big
I've
one.
had several. It's beautiful. Absolutely, it folds out, it's so pretty. Hammer are really coming back. They've got a new chap, aptly called John Gore. I know what a name for a hammer. That's his real name. He's really a powerhouse of and he's coming back with a lot of interesting stuff now. Hammer. Do you like Hammer?
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
very much.
Very, yeah. No, I love that.
Okay, that's all the time we have, unfortunately. Caroline Monro and Luigi Cozzi.